Trucks, trucks, more trucks. Squigs, squigs, all the squigs. Why does this keep coming up? Why every time you hear about someone talk about orcs, those are the only data sheets you hear? Well, in reality, orcs have multiple archetypes that can be played. Orcs have more than one themed of list that you can run. And all these ways are viable options to play in this edition of Warhammer. So today we decided to actually do a couple part series in this, and we're going to do several videos based off the orc archetypes that currently exist within our index, right? What I mean by archetype, and I decided to actually bring the definition of, is archetype a very typical example of a certain person or thing. The reason I wanted to use these words in definition is so people understand what our purpose is here as a channel and what this is with the presentation. We know that there are very, very cemented ideas into orcs right now, which are, let's run a bunch of beast snaggers, let's run a bunch of trucks. So we're going to take time to break down all the different variables, not today every single archetype, but we're going to start today with a certain archetype, and that archetype is going to be trucks, MSU, board control spam, right? And the reason we also decided to call prototypes is because we're going to show you a typical archetype of the list, something that's tried and true, and then we're going to show you some prototype lists, whether you're building up into developing orcs or you're just utilizing the collection you have and you want to run this style of list, right? The first point of when you're making your orc list or you're identifying structures is to identify the type of list the orc structure is that you prefer, right? So MSU truck spam is one. Stick to the data sheets that offer you utility that you need for that specific archetype. Can't make truck spam without a bunch of trucks, right? Flexible units that you see fit based off the meta and what you own. If you don't have trucks, maybe you're going to substitute that with something else that still offers a similar utility. Or if you don't have beast snagger boys, you just run boys, simple stuff like that. And then also don't chase the meta data sheets, but chase the meta tactics. As in, understand the way that we're trying to play and win the game with our index, with our strength of our index. But don't go out thinking, I need to get 3 by 3 by 3 by 3 of everything in order to play. Because what you need to chase is what's in your mind and what's in our index preferred way to play. And then you can utilize what you own to move in that direction, right? Because here we're not talking about, I'm going to GT to smash everybody. We're talking about we're playing all the time, making our list for everyday activity and building up into what would be a GT list, right? Or a competitive RTT list. And that is the archetype we'll show next. And this is what I deem one of my preferred. This is how I run orc truck spam. This is my archetype for this list. If you ever look at anybody else, they're going to be very different. The flexes out of here, some people won't bring the knob on Smash is good with Edward skill chopper. Some people won't bring their beast bosses. Some people won't bring as many basic boys. Some might go for beast snagger boys, right? These are slight variables, but ultimately, as you've seen anywhere you've seen, whether it be on a very competitive channel or someone that's just looking to build a strong orc list on Facebook groups, you see this is something that comes up. You're going to bring multiple trucks, you're going to bring beast snaggers, and you're going to bring the knobs with the war boss and the power clone. So let me go through this list very quickly so that people who might not be aware will be aware. WAAAGH is your warlord. WAAAGH is your big, thick unit. Toughness 10, 4 up emblem, 4 up no pain. Very obvious why he's there. War boss. War boss is tagging along in a truck with the knob unit. That is your scalpel unit. That is your unit that is threatening the enemy opposition so that they can't just meet you and disrespect you and stand out in the open middle of the battlefield because all you have is boys and storm boys, right? You need something that can punish someone who too quickly tries to take the center of the board. You need some kind of respect. That's also why I have the knob on Smash Good with Head Wapper's Kill Chopper for me personally. Also because I will put him in a 3-man unit, as you can see below, and he reliably pops certain transports that maybe want to disrespect you and walk directly into the middle of the board. That's also why he ended up on my list. Last one is a Beast Boss with the 10-man Beast Snagger unit. Goes another truck. That's just a strong skirmishing type unit. Another way to pop maybe a transport or to bully some kind of unit on the charge without requiring the wall. Okay. The boys are just the other boys and the 5-man boys are literally there just for scoring, board control, running around. The truck will do secondaries. The truck will give you mortal wounds. The boys will go over there and fight. They'll hold the OC. They're not necessarily there to always kill something. Sometimes they're there just to play the game, play the mission. That's really what the point of the boys is. And the list as a whole, right? You have 1 unit of Grots. I now drop down to 1. That's okay. 3 by 3 Squig Hog Riders. That's how I like to ride them. That's how I like to run them, okay? Obviously, because that's the theme of this list. If you're going to run more, it's because you're looking to punish people with them. With this one, you're looking to win skirmishes and take utility of that OC, make it hard for people to just focus fire each individual unit down reliably. Feel no pain, mess up the map. Then you have 2 units of storm boys. That's because rapid ingress is very powerful, forcing people to screen their own backfields. That way they can't just meet you in the middle of the table with all their assets and cause you to not be able to control your rate of attrition, right? So you do like to have storm boys, as well as they can do secondaries very helpfully. And then 1 unit of war bikers. Sometimes you just need something to sacrifice to get up the table when you need it, where you need it, right? So why is this the list always end up the archetype when you're going through this? It's because everything here serves a direct role while still playing into the primary and the secondary mission, okay? The knobs are there because they need to kill something. The grounds are there because they need to screen something. Squighog boys are all there for skirmishing, because this list is all about skirmishing. This list is all about getting everywhere on the board as fast as you can. That is the archetype of this list, right? Everybody's seen this. Now, why do I want to bring up a prototype? Because you probably don't have 6 trucks if you're new to Warhammer, if you're new to Orks. You probably don't have all the Squighog boys you want, or in general, if you see other variations of the list, maybe you have more beast bosses and Squigosaurs. So that's why I say let's pull up the prototype. So David, if you want to bring up the prototype, the reason we're discussing the prototype here, guys, is let's say you want to run a similar list.
Yeah, I just wanted to add though, what I like about this list is the mobility. You know, Warhammer isn't a rigid game. You're going to need all this mobility to remain flexible and respond to different areas of the board, depending how the game goes. There's a lot of variables. You can't predict everything that happens, and this is what this list is going to help you accomplish.
Yeah, and that's what this, like I said, guys, I'm trying to use specific words so that we can keep this conversation going, whether it's on Discord, whether it's in group chats, whether it's our community as a whole. Let's start using identifiers here. What I mean when people are like, they're mixing the ideas. Sometimes you see people throw too many squig or too many like mega knobs and all this stuff, but yet they want to do trucks and they're not understanding why it's not working, because in the archetype, and the archetype is a mentality of a way to play with what you have. So let's say that was the foundational list, right? The first one I showed you. The second one that we brought up here is what happens if I don't have 6 trucks? What happens if I still want to play, but I don't own everything that people would typically bring? Maybe I own more bikers, for example, right? That's something that I think can actually start to fill the void. Let's say I want to bring less boys. There we go. So what happens on this list is I still think Mazrog, you can flex that for a beast boss on Squigosaur if you really want to. Is a great option. As you see here, I like to keep some kind of respect. Some people say, I just want all the garbage. I just want all the units. I don't feel that way. Maybe it's my meta. Maybe it's my personal preference. I want to punish you. I want to get some respect in at least some certain corners of the board. That's why I bring the knob on Smash and Squig with that Wapa's Kill Choppa. Now, War Boss on Bike is something that you might not see. The reason I like the War Boss on Bike is the extreme speed that he gives to something that I would consider a QRF unit, quick response force, right? 3 knobs with power claws are small alongside the war bike to get there where you need them. Okay, that's another type of respect / quick response force. Let's say you messed up. Okay, and then the weird boy. The weird boy, instead of always having trucks, he can be the guy that gets to the other side of the table and starts scoring you late game secondaries. He can be tagged along with the 10-man boys, or he can just be solo based off of what you perceive you'll need. If someone's really good at screening, let him go solo. If you know they're not going to screen you, you have a chance to steal their home field objective, go the 10-boy unit with them and try to teleport, right? I like to go with the Beast Nagas. If we're going to have less battle line, let's get a little bit higher quality battle line. That's why I chose them for my battle line, okay? A little bit more grats. As you can see here, I didn't go 3 of everything, but I did go to 2x2. And that's because if you're not having all the trucks, you do need a bit of redundancy in these units that have speed, okay? Such as the Storm Boys and the War Bikers. The War Bikers now, for 25 more points, are the unit that's running out, standing on the objective, baiting someone with their OC, hoping that your QRF goes out there and clears that objective. The knobs on War Bike are still 2 OC per knob War Bike, and those 4 wounds, they can very annoying to kill when somebody has a specific 3 damage gone and they're looking for targets to go into, right? This is the unit. The reason these units are picked and listed on here is because they can still follow the archetype of what this list is trying to do. The knobs on War Bikes, running up the table with an auto advance 6 from the War Boss on Bike is going to give people headaches, knowing that that's going to charge them, knowing that that's a quick response force to whatever they're trying to do if they're trying to disrespect you. I personally like to run one, as you can see here, 1 Squighog unit of 6, as you can see, right? I think that kind of respect can also help you if you're going to be lacking the trucks. as the trucks are going to typically be absorbing all your anti-tank, going to be typically running around tagging units, maybe like a yin karn, holding stuff in place that is kind of durable, that you're like, hey, I don't really want you to run around, I want to put mortals into you. Well, guess what? We're going to need something else to kind of fill the mortal void and to fill the thickness void. And for that, I chose one thick unit of Squig Hog Boys. I personally feel like that's another way that you want to bring it. Does it still mess with the archetype of the list? If you deem it does so, easily break that up into 3 more 3-man units, right? That's the point of why this is a prototype. Because if you start subtracting trucks, there's still ways to play this archetype. Okay. And that being said, David, was there anything you want to mention about this that you noticed? This is the difference. Sorry, I don't want to just keep.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to reiterate those units that you're using as respect.
Mhm.
Last thing you want, especially in melee matchups, for someone just to come in your face and disrespect you, push the pace, take your home objective. They're not going to be able to do that when you have WAAAGH on one flank holding and a 6-man unit of Squig Hog Riders.
Yeah,
but it's important to have that in your list.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Nabon's Questions Quick Smashes Kid with Ed Wapa's Kill Choppa.
Right, him too.
Being able to just run up there, the 3-man unit of riders, maybe a rider gets taken down by Overwatch. Him by himself makes up for that, right? Him by himself helps destroy the enemy transport. Because one of the weaknesses, guys, if you'll see of this list, is if someone does have a durable, and the weakness of this archetype is durability and fast gun platforms. So the Nabon's Magic Squig ends up being very important utility for this list. Okay, and this is what I would consider the melee variant, guys. As you can see here, there's not like I put a bunch of shooting lists. You can't necessarily cover all your bases, right? If you're going for a certain archetype sometimes that archetype is like a theme, and sometimes themes have holes and weaknesses, right? In this one, you will as well. That's why you can see, I know I like guns, and I've preached having guns before. In this variation, I just go for speed, some punch potential for respect, good OC if I can, where I can, because obviously I'm not spamming too much. And I'm hoping to play the game, draw the correct secondaries I can, because I have all the tools to play that secondary. Now, let's say this is too similar and you're still bored because it's too similar to the archetype that we've seen everywhere, right? Because this channel isn't just about playing, this is what's boring, this is effective. That's boring, that's lame, we're orcs. We're not here for that. We're here to crump. We're here to have flavor. We're here to enjoy our index. We're here to enjoy our models that we own, that we painted, that we kit bashed. Therefore, let's show them the next archetype. The next archetype is, what happens if I want to throw some DACA, but still stick to the MSU style, right? In this sense, I've dropped some of the leaders, got a little thinner, but that's because I got the DACA. So we're going to start with Mazrog, a War Boss on bike still. I think he's a great substitute if you don't want to spam Squig Hog Boys, but you still want to incorporate bikers. Let's say you have a big collection, you've had a lot of bikers. I'm sure you have some knobs left over you can put in. And they're a nice, they're a good package of speed, punch, but not being overly expensive. Okay. Weird Boy, if you're lacking trucks, the Weird Boy is a good way to get around the battlefield and score you your secondaries. And Captain Badrook is to get them flash gets to hit like you need. I do still have 3 battle line units, even though I only have 2 trucks on this list. 2 trucks? What are you thinking? Oh, goodness. Because I got buggies. So the 3 battle line units, 2 of them, or 1 of them, can go in a truck. 1's going to go with the Weird Boy. And then 1 is a flex, as to sometimes you just need some boys. They can stand on your home field objective. They can run up the table. They can still stage. Boys are just cheap, and they do work when they need to. Or their points cost relative, right? For skirmishes, stuff like that, screens. You never know what you need them for. Got the 10-man unit of flash kits. Everybody knows what they're good for. In case you didn't know, Captain Badrook gives them full rerolls. They can pop the ammo run to give them lethals. And overall, their data sheet covers some of the weaknesses that orcs lack, right? The volume helps a lot. Nabon's Warbike, as you can see, the theme here, if I'm going to be lacking trucks, if I'm going to be lacking Squig Hog Riders, me personally, my favorite plug-in is the Nabon Warbikers. I think they're severely overlooked data sheet and unit as a whole. I'm not saying that they're going to win you a GT, but if you bring them to your friends or your RTTs, they're going to make some moves, they're going to make some waves. People are going to have to account for that much speed. I know a truck's kind of fast, but auto advancing 6 on a bike is even faster, and then charging. I do have commandos on this list. Ooh, commandos. Okay, if you're going to be running in here and having all this shooting, a little bit less of the punching, having a unit that can infiltrate up the table will matter. Having a unit that ignores Overwatch will matter. You're going to want the mortal wounds since you're punching less from the squig bombs. You're going to be throwing a lot of grenades on this list, guys. Like I always say, when I'm thinking about DACA, I'm thinking about grenades too. A lot of these units can still throw grenades, commandos, and as a whole are just a utility unit. I think they fit in really well, considering that you're going to have bikers, all these other units around. You want to deploy and kind of be in cover as you don't have the most durable units on this list. So something might want to get infiltrate into the middle of the board. That's why they ended up on the list. Custom Booster Blasta. Custom Booster Blasta is almost playing a role of, am I a war bike? Am I debuffing you? Am I taking an objective? What do you mean by that? What I mean by that is the flamers, its movement, its OC, throw that thing into the middle of the table. Debuff an enemy gun line unit. Debuff an enemy unit by making it -1 to hit and make someone want to shoot that stupid thing. In reality, they don't know how great it is or reliable it is. But if you put it into the middle objective, if you put it up against one of someone's favorite toy, they're going to want to kill it. And you're still going to get your points returned for it by the fact that it's still playing the mission. Okay. 2 Rocket Truck Squig Buggies. These are actually more reliable DACA. As you can see, this list is looking for DACA. But Rocket Truck Squig Buggies, good anti-infantry. Don't need to buff them in any kind of way. They can still run up and play the mission. Hopefully they can get some, they can spike some of their squig mines, put mortals on the opponent. Don't be scared to throw these guys away. As you can see with the archetype as a whole, as we've been talking about the archetype today, you must be willing to die for the points. You must be willing to die for the mission. That is the orc way. That is the green tide way. That is the way of the green skin. Never be fearful of losing your models. Don't look at this list and say, oh man, that. It is up to you to control your rate of attrition and your skill, not give enemy free phases. Last 4 units are very obvious. Storm Boys, War Bikers. You're playing the mission. You're playing the mission. You're playing the mission. As you can see on every iteration of this list that we've shown you guys, Storm Boys and War Bikers are a consistency, and they're a consistency because you're trying to play the mission. You're trying to get a lot of units on this board, on this list. So let's pull over to the last slide, David, the summary, right? Now the summary puts all this together and the concepts that we've had. We can go back and show the archetype if we want, but let's look at this for a second. Now the wall tactics summary are the keys to victory when you're playing this MSU truck spam board control style of list. Is 1, controlling your rate of attrition. This works generally as a whole for orcs, but there are some orc styles that just stat check you. Sometimes a Squig Hog Boy is just gonna roll, feel no pains. Sometimes a Stompa is just gonna ignore your last cannons, right? That's not what this list is doing. This list, you do need to consider, am I giving you a free phase? Am I standing out in the open unnecessarily? Am I overcommitting to this objective to where the enemy's gonna clap me back and I'm not gonna have enough to play later in the mission, right? And you need to get the most out of every unit. What I mean here specifically are you are going to need to utilize the trucks. You are going to need to utilize the boys and their grenades. And you are going to try to shoot the boys with their rockets. Everything that's in this unit, whether it has a bein or a bomb or some kind of mortal wound potential, you're utilizing all of it, okay? Because we're a very balanced index. And if you're going to be playing towards our large mass quantity of units that are not super powerful, you're going to need to optimize them. And that's how you optimize them. Pay attention to each keyword, pay attention to the terrain, and with the fact that they're small units will make them easier to hide, right? That's part of controlling the board and controlling your rate of attrition. The strengths for this list as a whole, the speed. Usually when you're playing an MSU style of when you're playing an MSU style board control list, everything is going to have good mobility because you're trying to get everywhere as quick as possible, hem the enemy into their deployment, almost form what I consider a horseshoe if you can, around them, and die at a controlled rate so you can stay on the board and hope that they never score enough secondaries, right? Another strength, high amount of units. Whenever you're building these lists in this archetype, even if you don't have trucks, but you're trying to do it, add more units. Whether, hey, I'm going to add 3 weird boys, and I'll only have 10-man units of boys because they're going to be telerouting the board, right? Consider just having a lot of stuff that can get everywhere where it can, even if you lack a truck or a war bike, right? Or a storm boy. Whatever you can to still serve that role, whether it just be Zodrock with some grots so you can get that 9-inch scout. This is what you need to consider when you're talking about the high amount of units. And when you're talking about the next strong point is the good OC. Everything on your list you want to consider has 2 OC, right? When you're looking at your units, at least for the most part, there might be 1 or 2 exceptions here, but everything is considered OC. When you go to put something on an objective and you look at what the enemy's going to do to line up to take you off it, are you staged with more stuff to take it back? Especially when you consider you don't hit super hard, right? And the last one is You need to be everywhere because as you draw secondaries randomly, which is a part of the game now, our strength is that we can almost score every secondary as we need it, other than the killing ones on this list, which goes to our weaknesses. Our weaknesses are high quality of mobile gun platforms, right? Example, fire prism. Example, harbingers, right? Example, any kind of gun that can take an angle on you, take away the initiative on you, and punish you for staging. We technically don't like that. Hopping our trucks makes us a little slower. Of course, they still have to try to clean the boys up, but that's why if it's a high amount of them, they can also tend to do that, which is something that Eldar specifically like to do. And even sometimes another matchup on Orks, because they have so many units on you as well. It comes down to which ones do you have. High durability units, you are, as a whole, when you play this style, going to have some tough games into knights, we'll say, right? Knights or anyone that's trying to stat check you. As if you don't have the respect, as I said, right? If you choose to build your prototype of the archetype without a bunch of respect units, to say you just go more for more garbage, there's more chance that they'll clear you off the board in a rate of attrition you can't control. If you don't have a scalpel unit or you don't utilize a scalpel unit, if they kill too early, then they might end up just killing you the rest of the game without you being able to control it anymore, because that's one of our weaknesses, their low ability and the lack of respect. Some armies will look at us and say, I'm just too strong for you, right? There's nothing you're going to do to even hurt me or slow me down. So you need to take that into consideration too. If your meta is just not going to accept this kind of gameplay because it has too much guns, they're too durable, or they can match you on the amount of units and also have guns on it, then you might want to reconsider that as well. And the last thing, which can be deemed either weakness or strength, but as a whole is weakness because it takes your ego and your mind to accept this, is you're probably going to be tabled by the end of the game if you play this correctly. For the most part, you're going to lose about 80% of your models, maybe 90% of your models. And that means you did it right, hopefully. Or if it's turn 3 and that happened, then you just had a bad game, right? And that's okay.
Yeah, one thing we got to keep in mind, Warhammer is a game of exchanging units, and these lists have a lot of units to do that. But also, even though one of the weaknesses is the lack of respect, you can force your opponent to get out of position just to get those shots on, a very cheap unit. That's what you would want to play the mission.
This is one of those Orks as a whole are an army where that you're gonna have to accept, hey, I'm gonna die today. Some people are like, man, but what if I get shot? What if I get shot? What if I die? Well, then make sure a limited amount of units from the enemy pre-measure their movement, measure your movement, measure the line of sight, and go, okay, only half of this unit can shoot me if I stand here. There's some things that you're gonna have to be willing to accept when you're playing with a lot of models and trying to take over the entire board. What I mean is, by not giving them away activations, is if you know you don't have to charge this unit, you can just steal the OC from them, objective from them, or you can just run away and try to steal secondary and stand behind them. Don't go charging into them, get your unit killed, and then let that unit run away, right? Or let the unit run up the field and start to pressure you some more, right? If you have a weird one on your list, don't throw him away early game turn 1 and relieve all the pressure off your enemy to have to worry about you turn 4 and 5, right? That's the way you want to consider with this list. You want to drip feed your army into the enemy, into the board, into the scoreboard, until they're sitting there with just holding some primary and late game hoping to collect the right secondaries. And as a whole, that's how the game plays right now. If they peak and just spike a bunch of great secondaries at the end, that's okay. As long as you play the game how you want. It's like we said when we started this. You don't chase the meta data sheets. You're just aware of the meta data sheets and the meta tactics. And currently, MSU truck spam, board control spam is a very viable archetype to play. And that's why I thought it was important that we covered it. We gave a condensed model of it so people understand this isn't the only way you play. This is one of the archetypal ways you play Orks. And with the prototypes given, you guys can go off that, even if you lack the actual archetype list. And you can go based off the prototype and build up, swap out, exchange. But by looking at these lists and these examples, you can deem, hey, I can see a consistency here. Consistency is a high unit count, considering OC and considering speed. I wasn't scared to plug in buggies. I wasn't scared to plug in more bikers, right? And that's why. Even though people will deem them as bad units, that doesn't matter. Playing the mission is what matters.
Right. That's also one thing we're trying to show you is with these prototypes, there is flexibility. So it's based off what you own, what you want to play. Like Eddie said, he wasn't scared to put his buggies in, which he owns a lot. So, don't be afraid to plug in what you own on this list.
And this is my, if you want my opinion, the one that is on screen right now, this is what my archetype is for the current truck spam kind of list. I like to have a little bit more bite. I like a little bit more punch. I like a little bit more crumping capability. Some people just like to have more stuff. That's on you, but that's the archetype that I bring to you. With that going forward, we're actually going to have more videos like this, specifically like this, with the other orc archetypes that maybe you're less heard of or less aware of. And as a whole, hopefully this helps people kind of understand why whenever they turn into a channel or they watch Olistic Tactics or they hear one of our other videos and we're going over the meta and they keep seeing, how come trucks are everywhere? Do I need trucks? And then a new player goes out and starts buying trucks everywhere. No. Let's say you have 2 or 3 trucks. I showed you a list, right? Let's say that you want to get up and you want to play this way. Let's say you like to have a lot of stuff. Maybe you used to play Eldar. Maybe you used to play GSC. Maybe you used to like to have stuff everywhere. I know when I first got into 40K, I like having stuff everywhere. I like to play garbage stuff, right, David?
Yes.
And I don't want people to be misled and think that you have to pursue it that one specific way to get the results that everybody else is getting. You might not get the exact results, like 3rd place in a GT or 1st place in an RTT, but you can still have very good games, play into some competent armies, and enjoy your index and enjoy the models that you either kit bash or you painted up, and not really have concern for just buying the same model multiple times, buying the same data sheet multiple times, and then having almost a redundant collection as the meta continues. Because the index just started, the edition just started, things can go anyway. And that's why I thought it was better to kind of talk about what an archetype is, what a prototype is of that list, and then go on from there. Let all of you guys, whether it's in the comments or in the Discords, or as you move on throughout the community, keep that in mind when you see someone bring up a list of this archetype, right? Which I would say is a board control / truck spam archetype. Okay. Yep. And I think with that, and guys, I was trying to keep this straight to the point, quick, to give us some more condensed content. That way, new people can kind of give us a taste. And we'll be ranting after this a lot, don't worry. And you're going to look at some comments real quick?
Yeah, we got our Big Mike Brandon in the chat. I'm loving this concept. Let's go, boys.
Whoa. This is someone who knows all about archetypes. He goes straight between the mech and the squigs. He knows everything about this. But I think it's important to kind of inform people, Brandon. If you're a new player or a moderate player or a casual player, and everything you keep hearing about is trucks, squig hog boys, I don't want my fellow greenskins to just all have the same stuff, all be running the same stuff. What happens when we do get new detachments? Then all you guys all have the same thing? No one can enjoy that kind of stuff? No. That's why it's good to understand what we're trying to do here now, play with what you got, and as the edition unfolds, this mindset will only evolve and improve. Because guess what? Playing the mission is what Orks have always been good at. So thank you, Brandon.
Right, and it can be discouraging hearing you got to play a certain way.
Oh, yeah.
And then build up hobby. You spend all that hobby time getting this list ready, and now all of a sudden, like Eddie said, new rules come out. So we're not trying to push that on anyone. We're showing you other ways to play the game.
Once you expand your mind, guys, not just be limited to, I hear I got to play MSU. If I want to play high-scoring mission, I got to get all the trucks. No. You might need some more ability. You might need to buy another box of bikers. You might need to get a little kit bash creative with your war bikers and odds. But no, you don't need to just go out there and buy 3 boxes of every single data sheet that's relevant. That's boring.
Yeah, consider the long game here. Think about
exactly.
Focus on expanding your own collection, what you like.
That's what we are considering when we bring to you as a channel. We're considering the long-term game between all of you. When you listen to us, when we talk to you, when you talk to us, what's in your best interest as you move forward in this, so that the Ork player base goes up from 500 games to like 1,000, right? Because people, if all you ever hear and you're a new person or a casual player and you're coming back into the edition and you hear, all right, guys, this is the way you play as Orks. Ha-ha. Then it's like, all right, I don't want to use that, man. I still have my speed wall list back from the box set. No, man. You can still run that and just think about it as the shooty MSU that we showed you, right? We love y'all.
Right. And another thing, it can also be discouraging when the meta units are all sold out from GW.
Right.
You can't even play
right.
them.
You can't even buy them. And you spend all your time hobbying, and then they're all of a sudden they're in stock and not even relevant anymore.
All right, we got Mark Bruce with the
Bruce.
Bruce.
I know Bruce is out here getting them RTTs in. My boy's putting in work.
Joel Atkins with the
always
another.
Always
Whoa!
with the wall.
And then we got Dave Landry done watching at double speed and caught up to live. Whoa!
Can you imagine listening to me talk double speed? No, I don't know how you even listen to that. I would hurt myself. But man, you're an odd boy, aren't you? Got to keep our eyes on you.
I think he's waiting for a speed walk.
Is he Mork?
Video.
No, I'm just kidding. He's a speed walk, right? Is that you're speedballs, aren't you? All right.
We got Artemis Steve with another whoa. And then Dominic's asking about this list, some feedback. Gaz, 6x10 beast snaggers, 6 trucks, 3x6 squig hug boys, 3 mech guns, and 2x5 storm boys.
So Gaz, right? So Gaz, I think, with his best ability now is if you choose to bring him, is you really do care about the Makari ability. As for how he synergizes with the rest of your list, I almost feel like he'll be a little behind in speed. He will be there possibly to come backhand people when they come to the middle of the table. I'm not sure if you're throwing Mega Knobs in with him. I think part of me thinks you actually are supposed to, have to. Or you don't think you have to.
Something's got to be at his pace.
If not, I mean, it's cool. And then if you want to read, let me see. Yeah, okay. And as for, like you said, as for that list, no, that list is actually, it doesn't fit the archetype exactly because you have a lot of the squig hog boys as big units. And the mech guns don't actually go out there and play the mission like the archetype we just discussed would. As for how the list would play as a whole, I think it's actually applicable, as the beast snagger boys can punch, kind of skirmish and trade. You do have a lot of trucks that are always going to be useful for us, which actually distracts from the squig hog boy bricks getting hit with anti-tanks. And then the mech guns give you somewhat of a threat to anti-tank. I mean, other enemy vehicles, but I'm not a fan of the mech guns currently, as they're just a little too random for me. But I can see why you brought them, just because the kind of points they are pretty cheap, right? So I say give it a shot. It's always based off your meta and your meta and your matchups and everything like that. But having a lot of trucks and then having a bunch of beast snaggers alongside with it is actually very good, because the same units want to shoot at both of those. The same data sheets want to shoot at both of those data sheets, right? If I have anti-tank, I want to pop your trucks, and I want to pop your square hog points, but I can't do it to both. So it does end up having some kind of viability.
And one suggestion, if you don't mind dropping Gaz for something a little faster to keep up with the rest of your list, 2 knobs on Smash the Squigs, some enhancements. Probably fit another utility unit in there too with the point save.
Yeah, the thing is with the knob, here's the thing. If you remember the mount, right? The mounts hit on 4s. So I'm a fan of the actual knob on Smash the Squig to just give that whole unit a +1 to hit. Just makes it so reliable. The fact that you only have -1 AP on that unit means you do want the volume in case you do into something that has a great armor save. So David makes a good point there.
All right, Eric Deason, finally get to catch you boys live. Thanks for joining us.
Whoa!
Whoa! And we got Paul Siragusa. I don't have Storm Boys, but have success with Death Coptas and get my games filling in for that role.
Yeah, exactly. Because why are they still filling that role? Because they have the deep strike capability. There you go. If you're willing to just, and I'm glad you made that comment, because that's the point. You are still trying to run the archetype. You're still using that role, but all you did was scour your data sheets and go, hey, I'm gonna plug this in. Sure, I'll have 10 less routes on my list, but I'll still have that scoring capability. Great job. That's exactly the point of the summary of keys to victory, of what these wall tactics we want to bring and why we show you a prototype. Because sure, I could have put 3x3 Storm Boys, but you know what else? You just make it a Death Copy unit and use rapid ingress, right? There you go. So thank you. Cool.
And Dave Landry following up with red ?
Yes.
We know.
Yeah, he's a little speed boss. That's why letting us know. Red ones go faster.
Yes. And Big Wizard Gaming, painting boots and pants. Slay the gray while listening along.
There you go. And right after this, for you listening along, we're actually going to go into if you guys are familiar with our boy Daggers gave us WAAAGH update and summary right after this. When we close this out, we're going to go into that. It's going to be like a hobby, just hangout session, but also discussing this as a whole, showing a lot of pictures. Giving him the summary is going to be a fun talk. This was just a topic discussion. So if you're doing that, when we log out of this, immediately come back and show us love.
And Christian saying the dev wounds on Gaz feels good when paired with mans.
Yeah, that's the thing. That the mans, even if you have 2 of them in there, because you decide you want to hide that profile, because Gaz plus the 2 mans, hide the 2 mans right behind him. It's a little tiny. You can actually hide that. On the wall, you've now given Gaz access to dev wounds. So yes, that's actually why I do favor having bodyguards, even if it is only 2. So good job, Christian. I appreciate that.
Yeah, good call out. Bill Jacobs, the list I'm building is similar, but running 6 characters as I'm very new and don't have a huge collection.
And exactly. So let's pull up which one list you and Luna made similar to what he was saying. Was it list number 2? List number 2, I think, because that has almost characters too. The 3rd slide. Yeah, So yeah, actually, I like that you said that, Bill, because that's kind of where we're going here with why I made this list, right? A lot of these units that are here, you see there's 2 of them, and there's a little redundancy here. But as a whole, I do have a lot of characters because I know when you're new into Orks, people tend to have a lot of characters when you start to get into Orks. I mean, when you buy the Squighog Riders, you get the Knob on Smash Squigger right away, right? If you get the right kit of knobs, sometimes you get the War Boss. It's an old kit, but hey, sometimes it's still out there. And that's the point of what this list is, right? I figure this is what I consider the prototype. If the other list shown previously was the archetype, this is the prototype, right? As you build your collection up, this is more or less what you could start building into if you want to play this archetypal list, which is a board control, speed, truck spammy list. Not the only way to play, but your comments is an exact example of why we put this video together. So thanks. And hopefully we were helpful to an extent here, right?
Dominic, thank you. Gaz is there to give lethal hits on the wall. I like the knob on Smash the Squig.
Yeah, David right there, shout out. Yeah, I like the lethal hits too a lot because it just brings all the boys up. It brings everybody else up. That's why I kind of try to get them my list too. And slowly I'm like, hey, maybe I can just get him in a smaller unit just so I can place him where I need him, get the dev wounds when he does charge. Because he does need to be leading a unit to get +1 hit, +1 to wound. So that's also why I like to put the 2 mans in there as well. But I like knobs on Smash Squigs, as you've seen from my list. I keep putting them in. So that's my bias.
And Bill Jacobs, yes, running 2 Beast Boss on Squig Hogs and Mazrog.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. They're excellent. Exactly. I mean, everybody knows the Squig units are excellent for their data sheets, for their purpose, their general utility. They can kill, they can skirmish, they can go solo, they can hold an objective, they can absorb all the anti-tank. So going into Squig data sheets is excellent, guys, and that's another archetype, and that will be another video for another day. Thank you. Is that all the comments for now? Okay, guys, we're gonna end this video. Hopefully it's more digestible for some of you guys. If you have any comments or points you want to make in the comments, ways we can make this video better, and we're gonna make it we're gonna do other similar ones to other archetypal orc lists. I just wanted to get this one out of the way first, as it's almost a little boring, as most orcs like to crump, but this is actually a very good way to score and win games on the casual level against, let's just say, a large variety of swath of good armies. So if you're just new to the game, you don't have a large collection, you just want to play the mission and get good at playing with orcs, I do advise you play this way. I really do, because then you're not skewed, you're not hamstrung into one type of way. As the edition moves forward, as more detachments are released, this is like a good baseline center. I can move in any direction from here when more rules come out, and that's why we started with that.
And also, we're considering pushing back the time on Fridays to 8:30. Let us know if that works better for you guys. We'd like to have a more engaging chat and provide live feedback for you guys.
I'm getting pumped, dude. I can't with this WAAAGH. All right, let's end this real quick, guys. Hopefully you'll come right back as we set up and we show you guys WAAAGH. Daggers gave us amazing pictures. It was a great idea and great talk. It's fun. You guys can copy while you're listening to us rant and show pictures about that and talk about some of Dagger's points of what he noticed from there, some fun ideas of fighting orcs back and back. And thanks for joining us. But don't cross our wall, because we knock your teeth out. Luckily, you're part of our wall.